Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I've got yet another banger here. Mob True Crime with Gene and JC. Of course, I've got CEO Rod joining. He's basically become part of the channels, part of the whole network. So we might have to start saying Mob True Crime with Gene, JC, CEO Rod, and then we're going to have about 20 other names from all over America when this thing's really said and done. This has become a coalition of old school guys that have been about the business, but now are about reform and about positivity. It's growing, it's building, it's taking on a life of its own. Make sure that you smash the like button. Of course, hit the notification bell, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. So without further ado, of course, CEO Rod, today's guest, it's my pleasure to introduce Ayatollah Marv. What's up, Ayatollah?
Hey, how you?
Excellent. So, hit it up.
No, I was just, man, like I say, man, around the country, man, if y'all haven't saw this big brother, my big brother right here, man, it's the one and only Ayatollah Marv, man. Just going to tell him your story, man. Let the world already know the story, man. But just tell him something new. You can tell us something old, too, man.
Yep. We met at, just so everybody knows, this is the gentleman. We officially met at Freeway Rick's birthday party. Freeway Rick, salute to our bro. He's got the cannabis club. It's great that Freeway Rick not only is free, he puts the free in freeway now. First off, let's go ahead and get this thing going. Ayatollah, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, bro.
I'm Ayatollah Marv, Compton, California. I'm the oldest active Piru in the world. Was born and raised in Compton, California, Nightmare on Elm Street. We the ones that ran Freddy Krueger out the hood. So the Nightmare on Elm Street came from us. We are the originals. We started Treetops in 1959. So I've been in the community, been a part of that 10 square miles all of my life. So we branched out from treetops to swamps to the front, on to now the new generation is Piru Street, when the original Piru boys, and now you have the whole Piru nation all over the world.
What is the difference? A lot of people don't know this, but there is a difference, between Pirus and Bloods. A lot of people think it's synonymous. What is the difference between the two? And then after you answer, go ahead, Rod.
Well, the difference is Piru is a street in Compton. We're all from Compton, California. And the dynamics of where Piru originated from and how Bloods in LA originated, it was two different dynamics, but it ended up dealing with the same goal. I tell people, if you're in the Army, you're not the Navy, right? And the Air Force is not the Marines, but they're all in the service, right?
Right.
So in 10 square miles, we got Pirus and Crips. We don't have a blood set. So Bloods didn't make Pirus. Pirus started in 59. What age, when did you first start gangbanging? So you had to be around that era. I know you kind of older than all of us, man. So just tell me when you first started, because I know we had to interview a couple of OG Crips. They say, they was kids. Basically, when y'all started Piru, y'all was kids. In Compton. Say that again. I say, what year? When did you join the gang? I've been a gang member all my life, if you let me tell it. But what started off as see, when people tell you about they don't know any prejudice in California. I grew up with the Spook Hunters and the Minutemen, right? These Woods that stayed over in Victory Park, where it's now called Wilmington Arms, and they used to ride around on Honda 50s, and after 7 o'clock, if blacks would be walking down Wilmington or Compton Boulevard, they would shoot them with BB guns. So in 1958, I was coming from Cressy Park, not Gonzalez Park, and I was walking across Rosecrans, me and my friends, my brother, we was walking across the street, and some white guys rolled up on us. It says 18, 19 years old. And I'll never forget the car, a 1957 Crown Victoria. and they ask us for direction. Me being naive, 8 years old, they tell me, man, don't walk on the car. I walked up onto the car, and the white boys threw eggs and tomatoes on me and laughed hard as hell. And I couldn't imagine anybody doing me like that at 8 years old. I went home. My mother tell me, why did you get? So I started my own gang. One day we was watching Hell's Kitchen with Edward G. Robinson, and they had some blackjack. So I went out and cut off some water holes and put black tape on them. And me and 8 of my little partners became the blackjack gang. And we were going to white people's houses and putting, and back in the day, the mailboxes was in the door. And we would go 9, 10 o'clock at night and take their water hose and put it in their mailbox and turn on the water. Their houses be floating the next morning, right? So
a lot of people think of California, West Coast, and they think of racism in the South only, right? But the fact is that, it was and has been, at all different places. My pops is actually from SoCal. He was born about 20 miles from the Mexican border in Brawley. He lived in Inglewood back in the day, and ultimately Fresno and all that when I was a kid. And my dad actually told me after I started committing crime, that I should check out Malcolm X of all people, and I'm like, well, why would I do that? I believe the media at the time. Everybody, a lot of white people were told MLK is the good guy. Malcolm X or Louis Farrakhan, they're the bad guys. And my own father, a white dude of Irish descent, says you should check out Malcolm X's biography. You might be able to learn something from it. And the reason why was Malcolm was a street hustler originally before, and he went through racism as a kid. I know that his whole story. And he told me the number one reason why there's social ills in the Black community is because of a lack of a sense of identity. Identity was stripped from Black folks in general, and that if you don't have self-respect, you can't respect others. You'll never respect other people or have a functional community unless you love yourself first.
And we as Blacks, the wilderness of North America has never been able to love ourselves. We fight for everything but ourselves. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We've been here 600 years in America. We've been in every war since they landed on the Plymouth Rock, helping white America. We've been in wars, we've lost lives, we've shed blood, we've been sorry. And out of 50 states, Blacks don't have one state that's bad economics.
Exactly.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? A brother told me one time, bro, and it really hit home. He said, Black people don't want to be free. We just want white people to like us.
Yeah. There's some truth to that. And the media would always say, oh, Jesse Jackson, MLK. But truth is that, yeah, fine, fair enough. But really, Malcolm X's message, especially before he was taken out, and I do believe we won't go down this rabbit hole today. We'll maybe talk another time about it. But obviously, he was taken out, and there was something behind that, we'll just say. But at the end of his life, Malcolm X had that street hustler mentality, and he was applying it not just to Black civil rights, but also to the unification. He had the ability to possibly get white Americans on the same page. And the power structure, the last thing they really want are all of us, because ultimately most people in America are poor, compared to Bill Gates and the super rich. There's a class that's got billions, and then there's a middle class and then there's really poor people and all that. But Malcolm had the ability, and he was cut down probably because of his ability, but that street hustler mentality to get everybody on the same page and put you know what I'm saying? Malcolm had those skills, and I learned a lot reading about him, and it actually taught me one reason why I was doing destructive things in the community, car theft. We would commit arson. We would burn the cars after we were joyriding. I grew up in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood, so there's a lot of similar issues. Selling drugs and stuff, and I became a trafficker, did the other things, and illegal gambling, all that. I learned that one reason why I was doing all that was because I did not, I was not being good to myself at all. I was doing these, and it manifests itself with these negative actions, if you hear what I'm saying. You know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I told him, oh, you said when you was a kid, it was a lot of white people in Compton, man. People, they paint a picture of Compton right now. They think Compton just a ghetto and stuff like that. So when you was growing up, you said it was a lot of white people in Compton.
Compton was Mayberry when I was growing up. Andy Griffin and Mayberry. Compton
Yeah.
was when I grew up in Compton. Compton was called the city of no small because of the Alameda corridor, the San Fernando winds, the mountain air and the ocean air. Right now, it meets on in the Alameda corridor and it cleanses the air naturally. People used to
Wow.
movie stars, Edward G. Robinson, John Wayne. They used to come to Los Campanas Hospital on on Compton Boulevard and Wilmington to dry out. We were on drugs, or they would come to Compton. The LA Dodgers lived in Richland Farms. I used to steal their horses. You know what I'm saying? It was a whole different dynamic. And when they had white flight in 1969, 1970, Compton was the first black run city west of the Mississippi's, had a black mayor, black city council, black fire chief, black police chief, and they took the economics. When they took the economics, all the stores closed and you just had niggas fighting niggas. As you say, how I started, I was called the black, my boys was the blackjacks. So one of my older homies, he tells me, no, man, you're not no blackjacks. We treetops, like treetops. All our streets are named after trees. Maple Street, Poplar Street, Elm Street, Cedar Street, Brazil Street. So before it was Palmer blocks, from Compton Boulevard to Rosecrans, from Central to Canal, we was all treetops. And they used to fight against the swamps, going to Enterprise, which we called Interprison. Enterprise was so rough, bruh. I was going to drop out of school in the 6th grade because I couldn't fight good enough to go over there, right? They opened up Vanguard and saved my life.
See, off of LA, so I know the school. The schools, they still bad now. So they was bad in the goddamn 60s more. Man,
yes,
so
sir.
Out of 6th grade. Okay, let me ask you a question. When the first time that you guys encountered some Crips?
The first Crips, I went to prison in 1968.
I was 1 year
murder
old.
robbery.
I was 1 year old. I said I was 1 year old in '68.
Well, yeah, I was in Tracy, California, got stabbed, and they sent me down to YTS in 1969. In 1972, 71, 72, the first Crips came to YTS. Bunchy Griffin, Crazy Crip Kevin Williams, Minnesota, Stanley Watkins, Skip, Chipper, Ron Dellum. Those were the first Crips that came to YTS. I knew the original Crips when they came there. We didn't have that situation in Compton at that time. They didn't know nothing about it. And I remember the first time Bunchy Griffin told me, he said, yeah, Marv, we got Crips in Compton. I'm like, so he took me over to this brother named Valentine Johnson that was in A unit. And he said he was a Pan-Ass gangster Crip, right?
That's not
and I said, Pan-Ass, where in the fuck is Pan-Ass at? And he says, on the other side, when I was growing up, if you passed Santa Fe, you was either in Paramount or Linwood, because they went to Dominguez High School, which is in Paramount, or Linwood High School, that is in Linwood. They went to Whaley Junior High School. We didn't accept them as being from Compton.
Exactly. If you know the demographics. But like I said,
so the new dynamics took it on the other side. I tell him, bro, don't you ever say you from Compton. Then the Grandees came up. And after the Grandees, it just started exploding. And then in 1972, Jody Crawford from the projects killed little Billy Flowers from Parmalee Street. He killed him on Compton Boulevard and Wilmington at a gas station about a girl. And his mother had him at Harrison Ross on Firestone. And the dudes from Jordan Downs tried to come get up in the funeral home, and the director called Miss Flowers, and Miss Flowers got Puddin' and Tam, Lil Vince, Ralph Carter, and they went down to the funeral home. When dudes started coming across the street, they started shooting at them up in the air. And they like, who are y'all? And they said, we the Piru boys. So they started calling the Piru boys roosters.
Wow. Okay.
They was calling
Now,
Bloods. The first Blood gang is the 5'9" Brims. 5'9"
that's right.
Brims. They was at that time they was calling them blobs because they had this movie. This big hunk of blood was rolling over everything, right? So the roosters at the blobs came up, and everybody was red.
I remember that movie, The Blood, man.
Yeah, that was the diss word for Bloods in the early 70s. From the famous words of Melvin Farmer, we don't set trip, we set trends.
What was the first gang set y'all was feuding with?
Like I said before, we always we had a rivalry with the Swamps. We had a rivalry with the with Front Hood. At the front, some people, it wasn't the front, it was the front, it was been the front all of your life. So that and before it was Fruit Town, they was the Bliss Boys. So we always had our inter turmoil, but because see, when I grew up, if you got arrested, you had to go to East Lake Juvenile Hall, right?
Yes.
You go downtown to East Lake Juvenile Hall. Before you got to go to Las Petrinas, you had to go to East Lake. East Lake, they had the gladiators, they had the businessmen, they had the Slawsons, they had the rebel rousers, they had the outlaws. You had to fight all of them dudes before you got there. So when you came from Compton, we all had to be together, no matter if you was from the swamps or if we got there, it was us against everybody.
Right. You'll see Bloods. We got a large audience in New York, right? How did all that spread? Go ahead and let the audience know, like how things spread out from Compton, LA, South Central, all that across Cali and then across America.
It spread out through the media. Didn't nobody know nothing about us until Colors and Boys in the Hood.
How accurate do you think Colors was? Obviously, they got to put a bunch of stuff into a 2-hour thing, but what's your gauge it based on your own?
It spread the contamination all over the United States and 5 foreign countries.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me how it spread.
No, I hear you. No, you're absolutely right. It's the same thing with some of the mafia movies. As soon as Goodfellas came out, I'm glad I never saw any of those mob movies before meeting mobsters. Otherwise, I would have had a preconceived notion about how it's supposed to be. I'm glad that I learned through trial and error in the real world than from a media portrayal. But you're absolutely right. Same thing with Goodfellas. All of a sudden, Italian kids or Irish kids that had nothing to do with New York or that whole area and that whole scene, all of a sudden they want to start saying the same words and the same mentality. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's except for the black community when it came to, Colors. And then, of course, Mexicans, same kind of stuff as well. When what's it called? Blood In and Blood Out. American
Blood In, Blood Out. Yes, sir.
Movies too. Same thing.
Steve Harris said, wherever crack went, that's where Bloods and Crips went. Like you asked more of the question, Compton, Bloods, everything was originated in California, but they say it's Bloods in New York, it's Bloods everywhere. I just was in Omaha, Nebraska, it's a bunch of Bloods out there, and they was asking me a bunch of questions, but they was kids. But like Marv said, wherever, Bloods, they're all across the world right now, man. That's a big old thing. And it's not like the entertainers that they glamorize, being a gang member, but like Marv said, like you said, the media glamorized that. Like when we talked to Steve and we talked about the movie Colors, I didn't like the movie Colors, man, because like I say, that was some bullshit. That whole movie was just bullshit. But then once they put that movie out and it went across the world, and then you got Banging in Little Rock. I was in federal prison watching Banging in Little Rock. So Bloods and Crips went everywhere around the world. Correct, Marv?
That's right.
Is there any differences between Bloods in LA versus the Bloods that are in New York? You would know this better than most.
Everybody has their own different politics. Like you got 9 Trey Bloods out of New York. They started UBN in 1993. They're under different. You got Sex, Money, Murder. You got G-Shines. So they didn't took a fraction of what your playbook was and made their own playbook, and have a whole different dynamics and a whole different set of curriculums that they put through that it looks foreign to you. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
The difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, they have a structure and they work on a structure. We are just We're really a gang. We have no structure. Ain't nobody want to be an OG. You know, they mad at me because I said I'm the oldest active Piru. I didn't say I started Piru. I started from in California. You think what I'm saying?
Right.
I ain't taking nothing from putting them what they did, but it was before them too. It's just like in the structure. Like I was telling some people a couple of weeks ago, I was in Milwaukee, right? And when I was in Milwaukee with this brother Shake and Nate doing a Adidas launching, and we went out to this soul food restaurant, and there was a brother at the door. He opened the door. When he opened the door, I walked past him and he said something. I thought he was talking to Brother James. And Brother James asked me, he said, well, you heard what he just said? I said, no, what'd he say? He said he gave you the greetings. He said I had a star and crescent on from the Nation of Islam. He said he saw the 5-point star. He's a vice lord. I said, a vice lord? He said, yeah. So dude went to the back and he came back. He said, yeah, he owed security to the door. We went back there. It's like 12 to 15 guys back there having dinner, right? So they look and they're looking at me. They looking. And one of them got up and like, hey, brother, aren't you in movies or something? I'm like, nah, bro. So Brother James said he be on podcasts. They told me, man, yeah, that is Ayatollah. So they got up and greeted me. They got to talking. They told me that they was vice lords, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay. And so they showed me the top hat and the cane, and we took some pictures together. And the leader of them, Swift, he about 40, 43 years old. These ain't no kids. These are grown men with a structure, still vice lords. And they wasn't even from Milwaukee. They was from Indiana. They came out here to do us. But see, this is a gang, the vice lords, that grew and came up, and they got younger brothers under them. The Slausons, the businessmen, the gladiators, they don't exist anymore in California. Now a new gang, and they don't give a damn what an old one is talking about.
Yeah, that's real, Marv. That's real what you say. Like you're right, man. Like I say, when I was in federal prison, I met some GDs and vice lords, and like we used to talk, man. They more like an organization. When you think
they're organization.
Their organization, they really like the mob. We as gang, gang members, we just in a gang. We ain't got no chief, we ain't got no lieutenant, no don, no princes, and none of that stuff. And then, like I say, I don't know is it true, because I know the GDs, when they get a violation, they got something like 20 to the head, no cover up. That's when your chief gets to hit you in the head 20 times, and then you cover up. We didn't have no structure. Like I say, I'm from the 30s, man. You feel me? I'm like a second generation from the 30s, man. We just a gang. It was in LA. It was never no structures under the gang thing.
Right. So it's a different dynamic from the East Coast and the West Coast.